Hey there. As the world falls further into the coronavirus disaster, it's only natural that there be a lot of rally around the flag, kumbaya, let's all pull together stuff. Unfortunately, the quality of leadership in the United States has been so terrible and continues to be so bad that we don't have that luxury. Within a day of each other in late January, the South Korean and U.S. governments were notified that each of their countries had their first coronavirus cases. 2 months later, South Korea has around 9,000 cases, and New York State alone has well over twice that many. We have that many cases, and it's still almost uniquely hard to even get a test in the United States. Today's video is about Donald J. Trump, the man who killed the world. Now, many of you out there want to blame China for this catastrophe, and I've got to say, with all the horseshit propaganda they are spewing lately, I'm warming up to that idea. But it's important to remember what we are blaming China for. For a full month, they silenced people who wanted to raise the alarm, and they lied about the severity of the disease, costing the world valuable time. Well, that's exactly what Donald Trump's administration did too, except he did it for 2 months, not just one. And Donald Trump didn't lie about the disease when there was a handful of cases in some second-tier city. He lied about the disease when multiple better-run countries were already shutting down all over the world. He took one half-assed action in late January, and he's been congratulating himself for it ever since. His Fox News henchmen have been congratulating him too.
We can say this tonight without a doubt. The president's China and European travel ban, I predict, will go down as the single most consequential decision in history. That's not political. It brought us time. It bought hospitals time to prepare for the worst case scenario.
Let's talk about that miraculous shutdown. China notified the World Health Organization that it had a problem on December 31st. It acknowledged the full severity of the problem by shutting down Wuhan on January 23rd. The first U.S. case was confirmed on January 21st. When did Trump's heroic China ban happen? January 31st. And it didn't shut down anything. The planes kept coming, and though the claim was that airport health screening would be stepped up, that was probably another one of Trump's many lies. The text of the order itself laid out that an average of 14,000 people came from China to the United States every day. And the order did nothing about U.S. citizens and their families, the population most likely to bring the disease to the United States, as if Americans couldn't get infected. The Europe ban wasn't fully implemented until March 17th, when the United States likely already had thousands of cases. These travel bans, if they had really existed in time, could have saved the United States if they were implemented along with Korean-style mass testing and tracing of anybody who might have been exposed to the virus. But Trump decided not to do that. Instead, he opted for Chinese-style intimidation of whistleblowers and lying to cover up what the experts were already screaming.
And again, when you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done.
Trump's defenders are absolutely right to point to failings by the Centers for Disease Control and the Food and Drug Administration, among other bureaucracies. But Donald Trump is the man in charge, supposedly, so this is on him too. The CDC put together a test that did not work. The FDA then held up private testing because of a series of regulatory barriers that were each lifted weeks after they should have been. This means that in most of the United States, today, it still takes over a week to get test results back. While in the rest of the world, it takes a day or just a few hours. The federal government's epidemic response bureaucracy is made up of competing organizations that need centralized direction. After the Ebola epidemic in 2014 and 2015, Obama set up 2 coordinating groups at the Department of Homeland Security and the National Security Council specifically focused on infectious disease response. Donald Trump disbanded both of those groups in April and May of 2018. Even without the coordination of the professionals Trump fired, a competent president should be able to handle a pandemic coolly, calmly, and without becoming a source of rampant misinformation. Barack Obama managed it twice. Trump is fond of pointing towards Obama's supposedly failed response to the 2009-2010 swine flu pandemic. Expect to hear a lot less about this, starting at some point next week when the U.S. coronavirus body count should exceed the entire year-long U.S. body count from the swine flu pandemic. The scale of the disaster in the United States should not distract you from what this has done to the rest of the world. We are lucky that the state of New York is wealthy and has some incredible healthcare infrastructure. In New York, at least, testing is finally beginning to happen in large numbers. What it is revealing is horrifying. New York alone has more confirmed cases than all of France and all but 6 other countries. Shamefully, testing is still very scarce in most of the rest of the country. The U.S. is officially only the 3rd most infected country at this point. To me, it's obvious that we are the most infected country. I only wonder whether it's by a factor of 2 or 3 or 5. What this means is that as many mistakes as China made in the first month of the disease, their crime pales in comparison to what we did to the world in the 2 months following our first cases. Our airports remained open and unencumbered without any kind of testing or screening. Our president, who cares more about markets than people, told the country that everything was fine, as the richest and most connected nation in human history became a super spreader of coronavirus. This disease was born in China, but it is U.S. government failure that turned it into a pandemic. Trump supporters are currently trying to get everybody to call it the China virus. I think it would be more appropriate to call it the Trump virus.
Dr. Fauci said earlier this week that the lag in testing was, in fact, a failing. Do you take responsibility for that? And when can you guarantee that every single American who needs a test will be able to have a test? What's the date of that?
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all. No, I don't take responsibility at all.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
Finally, thanks to the leadership of governors like New York's Andrew Cuomo and Washington's Jay Inslee and medical professionals everywhere, we are beginning to take this seriously. But few are reckoning with the scale of the damage we are about to see both to human life and the world economy. There are some optimistic pieces out there that claim that if we are good at social distancing and do a lot of test and trace, we could all be back at work by April 15th. The model they use for this is South Korea. But these optimistic models are leaving something out. South Korea took extreme measures when they had a few hundred cases. The US is just getting serious now that we probably have a couple 100,000 cases. I am no mathematician, but even I know that that makes an extraordinary difference. As bad as the markets look today, trust me, this is just getting started. The consequences are going to be horrific for the whole damn world. I guess it's possible that things will look more normal in a couple months. Maybe the weather will save us, though that's looking increasingly unlikely. It's also possible that the consensus will shift, and as a society we'll decide that old folks and the health system are just on their own. Even if things improve, 2 facts will remain shamefully clear. The United States has, so far, utterly failed to meet the first real challenge of the 21st century. And Donald Trump's incompetence is responsible for that fact. President Donald Trump is the man who killed the world as we knew it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to get updates whenever I upload a video. Thanks.